Hello friends, today's topic is constructor in C++. In this we will learn various features of constructors as well as different types of constructors like default, parameterized and copy constructor. Let us start with the definition. Constructors are special methods that are automatically invoked whenever the object of class is created. It is different from the member functions. How? Let us see the features. So it has same name as that of class, whereas the member functions do not have the same name as that of class. Second, it has no return type, whereas the member functions do have a return type. Third, it is automatically called when object is created, whereas the member functions need to be called by using the dot operator. Fourth, if you do not specify a constructor, C++ compiler generates a default constructor for us, whereas if you want to have a member function in your class, you have to define it. Now, types of constructor. We have three types of constructors. One is default, second parameterized, and third is copy constructors. Let us discuss them one by one. First is default constructor. The constructor which doesn't take any argument or parameter is called default constructor. If we do not define any constructor explicitly, that means if a programmer do not define any constructor in the program, then the C++ compiler will automatically generate a default constructor implicitly. Now this is the syntax for the default constructor. As we know, the constructor's name is same as that of the class name, so we will write the name of class here, and there is no parameter defined for the default constructor. It will be 0, null. And now the body of constructor. Now this is the simplest code for your default constructor. Here we have declared a class with the name tech. The body of class starts here. Public is the access specifier. Now this is the constructor of your class, which is the same name as that of your class, which is tech. This is the body of your constructor in which we will be having output as cout hello world. Now in the main function, we have defined the object with the help of class name, which is tech, and ob is the object. Now as soon as you define this object, it will call your constructor automatically, which will be printing the output as hello world. Is parameterized constructor. When parameters are passed to constructor, it is called parameterized constructor. It is used to initialize various members of different objects with different values. It is used to overload constructor. That means you can have more than one constructor in a class. Now this is the syntax for parameterized constructor. The name of your class, which is the name of your constructor too, followed by number of parameters you want to include, then the body of constructor. Now this is the example for parameterized constructor. We have created a class naming add. Now here the class is started. Then we have declared a public specifier. Now we have defined a parameterized constructor. See, the name of the constructor is same as that of class, followed by the number of parameters. Here num1 and num2 are the parameters of constructor. Then this is the body of your constructor in which we are adding these two numbers and then printing it. And the class ends here. Now in the main function, you can see that we have created the object obj1 and we are passing the value 10 and 20 to the parameter of this object, that is going to num1 and num2 respectively. This particular calling is known as implicit call, whereas when we declare the object first and then pass the values later, this is known as explicit calling. Both the objects are calling the parameterized constructor add only. You can see the output here. For first obj, we are getting the output as 30, and for second obj calling, we are getting the output 110. Third is your copy constructor. Initializing an object through another object is known as copy constructor. In other words, you can say when you copy a value of one object into the another, it is known as copy constructor. This is the syntax of your copy constructor. Here we have the name of the class, which is the name of your constructor. The const keyword is used, followed by the name of the class and the reference object, then body of your constructor. Let us check the problem where we use the copy constructors. When one object is used to initialize the another object, then C++ compiler performs bitwise copy. That is, identical copies of both the objects will be created. Now, this is perfectly adequate for many of the cases. There are situations in which a bitwise copy should not be used, like when an object allocates memory when it is created. So the whole funda is about the memory allocation. Now we will see how this copy constructor helps us out to resolve this particular problem. Before moving to the solution, let us understand this problem with the help of this example. Assume you have created a class tag and the object A. Now object A is used to initialize object B. With the help of this statement, tag B is equal to A. If bitwise copy is performed, then B will be the exact copy of A, which means that B will be using same piece of allocated memory that A is using instead of creating its own, which will be a problem. How? Now, when you will be freeing the memory, the same piece of memory will be freed twice for both the objects A and B. To solve this problem, we have copy constructor. We create copy constructor by which by default the bitwise copy is bypassed. There are three ways of initializing the objects. First is when one object explicitly initializes another, like here tag A is equal to B, where B is explicitly initializing A. Second is when object is made to be passed to the function, like here where B is been passed as a parameter to function. And third is when a temporary object is created, like B has been created, which is a temporary object and is returning the object for the function. Now this is the example for your copy constructor. Let's start. This is the class name tag. Inside class, we have declared two members, that is x and y of type integer. Here we are declaring a parameterized constructor with two parameters x1 and y1. This is the body of your parameterized constructor. Now we are declaring the copy constructor here. The name of constructor is same as that of class, followed by const keyword, then name of the class and the reference object, that is OB here. Now you can see that we are defining these values here. Why we have taken the dot operator? Because we are having the OB as an object. So object call its member data or your data members by dot operator only. Next, we are declaring the display function, which is the member function of class, which is just giving the output of x and y. Now in the main function, first object has been created, that is obj1, which is calling your parameterized constructor with the values 10 and 15. And this particular statement is invoking your copy constructor because obj1 has already been created and it has been passed to obj2. Now if you see the output for this code, we will have for normal constructor that is 10 and 15, and for copy constructor it is again 10 and 15 because obj1 value has been copied to obj2. But in this case, both the objects, that is obj1 and obj2, will not share the same memory, but they will have different memory. Now we will differentiate between assignment operator and copy constructor. Copy constructor is an overloaded constructor, whereas assignment operator is bitwise operator. Copy constructor initializes the new object with the existing object, whereas assignment operator assigns the value of one object to another object. Both the existing object as well as the new object shares the different memory locations in case of your copy constructor, whereas in assignment operator, both the objects, that is existing and the new one, will share the same memory location. Now next topic is constructor overloading. Just like other member functions, constructor can also be overloaded. In fact, when you have both default and parameterized constructors defined in your class, you are having overloaded constructors, one with no parameter and other with parameters. Let's take the example. Here I have created a class named student. Inside this there are two data members, roll number of type int and name of type string. Now this is your first constructor having one parameter inside this, which is x of type integer. So I have taken the value of x in the roll number. Now there is no parameter for the string type, so I am just taking the name is equal to name not exist. This is just for printing the value. Now next is your second constructor, which is having two parameters for it, for which we are taking the values into the variables. Now void output is your member function. This I have created just to have the outputs for name and roll number. Now in the main function we have created two objects A and B, A with the value 10 and B with value 11 and John. Now as soon as the objects will be created, they will be calling their corresponding constructors, like A will be calling this first constructor and B will be calling the second constructor. Why? By matching their parameters. Now we will check out the output here. In a dot output, when this particular statement will be called, then your first constructor will run and they will print the output as name not exist, because we have no parameters defined for this particular name variable. So this particular statement will be printed and roll number will be 10 as 10 was passed to the object A. For second statement b dot output, it will be printing name is John and roll number is 11. Now the last topic is constructor definition, which can also be declared outside the class using scope resolution operator. See here we have defined a class named tech. This is your data member. In public we have just declared the constructor tech. We haven't defined it. We will be declaring it outside the class. See here we have taken the name of class, then scope resolution operator and the name of your constructor, and then the body of the constructor has been defined. Finally, concluding the video, we have learned what is constructor with its features, then types of constructor, constructor overloading, and defining constructor outside the class. If you like the video, then please hit the like button and do subscribe the channel. Thank you for watching.